The words, as they say, if they fly out, you won't catch them. Many things are associated with words that pop out randomly or with deliberately spoken provocative demarches. Now Europe is exercising verbally in the person of President Macron. He said that they have not decided yet, but nothing can be ruled out, that they will send troops to Ukraine. It has long been known that the British, French and Americans, in the form of instructors, have long been working on the territory of Ukraine, helping them maintain, charge, and target long-range and other systems, which they transfer to Ukraine in large quantities. The assistance provided to Kyiv over 2 years already amounts to $250 billion. During the same period, all African countries received $60 billion from the West and from Western institutions for everyone. So, the priorities of the West are clear. But there were words that are now flying out of the mouths of Western figures, including when the conversation and recordings of this conversation between German generals were revealed, which were widely distributed. The reaction of German politicians is interesting. Some of them are concerned that there has been a leak in the networks that ensure the security of negotiations, that is, the very fact of training German weapons and German specialists who maintain these weapons for an attack on the Russian Federation, including the Crimean bridge and ammunition depots, that they are discussing. This fact does not surprise German politicians. They worry how it could be that the secure communication network turned out to be not very reliable, and that says a lot. Probably. They also found some right word in order to legalize in the public sphere the very idea of sending ground forces to Ukraine from the still separate European NATO countries. But the US Secretary of Defense, who recently left the hospital after treatment, Lloyd Austin, said more specifically what is at stake. He said that if Ukraine were defeated, then NATO would be obliged to act against Russia. Thus, he fully clarified those vague hints that floated in European discussions, hints that if Russia is allowed to defeat Ukraine, then after the victory it will attack Finland, Poland, and the Baltic states. Well, President Putin responded to this generally delusional rhetoric. He has repeatedly said that this is an absolutely made-up horror story with the sole purpose of forcing the American Congress to allocate the money required by the current presidential administration. But this is the price of these words. And no one is surprised that such plans are being discussed. This is the price of words that are spoken either accidentally, or it is the price of words that deliberately express dangerous thoughts. Please tell me when our respected opponents will interact with us directly and not through intermediaries? When will they finally pluck up the courage to do this? Anton, who needs this question? This question is for Sergei Viktorovich. Well, it is possible to respect opponents when they go into battle with their visors open. But they constantly assure us that the West is not at war with Russia. The West only supplies weapons. Then it turns out that there are Western citizens there. They say yes, but they are mercenaries. They retired from military service. In the vast majority of cases this is doubtful. Then they began to say that there should be some instructors there because there are too serious technologies that cannot be mastered quickly, but they need quick results, and so on, up to the leak that the German generals directly admit that they need to do something so that the Ukrainians shoot with their help, but at the same time so that no one finds out about the Germans. All the same, there are French, English and Americans there. This is not an open visor, but this is a scam. And they constantly say that they are the ones defending Ukraine. Then they declare, I have already given these quotes, that if Ukraine loses, then Russia will allegedly go to war against all of Europe. Well, that's their mentality. When they gathered their troops, Napoleon and Hitler, in order to conquer all of Europe. And the US Secretary of Defense said that if Ukraine is allowed to lose, then NATO will have to act against Russia. For them, this is an existential defeat, as they see it, but in fact, this will mean their final attempt to establish a unipolar world with the dominance of the United States in full obedience to the rest of the West, which, by and large, Washington has already achieved. About when they will start talking directly to us. We take this philosophically. We feel very sorry for these people. These are diplomats who, by and large, are cowards. They are expelling our diplomats from Europe and from a number of other countries, for example from Japan. They stop all contact altogether. Anatoly Vasilyevich said that even academic contacts are being reduced. This is a desire and anger to punish us, but, at the same time, this is also a manifestation of cowardice in terms of unpreparedness for fair competition. The West has no arguments. They lied to us about the Minsk agreements, which they had no intention of implementing. They prepared this coup d'etat deliberately. They forbade the opposition to implement the settlement document. And yet they carried out a coup. We know all this, but, you know, I will now say something that we have not yet made public. We have accumulated a lot of materials about how the European Union embassies in Moscow are preparing for our presidential elections. They are developing intervention mechanisms, creating some kind of supporting projects for our non-systemic oppositionists. In general, these are things that embassies do not have the right to do, and, having collected such information, a week and a half ago we invited all the ambassadors of the European Union to a meeting with me. As Foreign Secretary, I wanted to tell ambassadors and heads of diplomatic missions that we, with the best of intentions, advise them not to do this. What do you think? 2 days before the start of this meeting, they sent us a note saying that they had decided not to come. Can you imagine relations with states at the diplomatic level whose ambassadors are afraid to come to a meeting with the minister of the country in which they are accredited? How is that possible? This is where the manners of these sworn partners go. And our president has said more than once that we never refuse serious proposals. For example, the Americans tell us that we are launching nuclear weapons into space, and they invite us to meet so that we can explain to them about strategic stability. This is not adult talk, but in favor of the poor. We have given comprehensive answers to this. The same situation applies to other cases. Before that, they suggested that we resume inspections of our strategic facilities under the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. We explained to them that this treaty was built on the following principles: trust, mutual and indivisible security, transparency. And the Americans trampled all these principles when they declared us an enemy who needed to be strategically defeated on the battlefield. Having done this, without blinking an eye, they still ask us to let them see what our nuclear strategic facilities look like. Is this fair? Therefore, no one from the West has yet made honest offers. There are various ideas dictated by the best intentions on security issues in Europe from African countries, from Brazil, the League of Arab States, and China. They all call for a peaceful settlement of the issue. And the main aspect of their position, this is especially clearly recorded in Chinese initiatives, is to, firstly, deal with the causes of the current situation in Europe, and secondly, to seek a solution through eliminating these causes and respecting the legitimate security interests of all participants. We are ready to interact on such a basis, but the West, as you know, puts forward some kind of 10 items formula, a peace formula. Now they have fooled Switzerland. It is trying to convene some kind of meetings, a peace conference. They are even announcing some kind of summit, but they again say that all this will take place without Russia. And they will call Russia when they agree among themselves and hand over to us a paper, which will simply be an ultimatum. Well, is this serious? This will never happen. Everyone understands this. They constantly add that they want to defeat Russia on the battlefield, so let them try.